Oh! Who can handle the jizz? What's up, Game Weepers? So you're bored of League like you are with that dumbass double lift pro cards ad that keeps popping up on our videos? How many more? Well, good news, because the listed changes for next patch have been revealed, the 11.11. Now, if you didn't hear me, I said these are the listed changes. I don't know specifically what that drunk balance team is bringing to the table, apart from more anime-looking champions and luck skins. That video comes tomorrow. What comes today is me quickly going over who is getting buffed, who is getting nerfed, and then the items that are copying it as well. Now, before you start listening to a challenger from OCE talk about the game, smash the sub button and check out the GameLeap website. We are packing the most heat when it comes to exclusive high elo league content, guys, on the web. So why don't you join thousands of other summoners who blame their teammates to escape elo hell? Links as always in the description and comment section. Right, so which champions are getting buffed next patch? Well, thanks to Mark Yetta, who could be Twitter's biggest punching bag, he has given us a list of 8 champions getting buffed, and the first one on this list we have to talk about, well, we're going to talk about 2 here. We're going to talk about Azir and Ryze, who are 2 of the worst champions in the game. Now, for Azir, the fact that your autos do more than your W at level 1 is one of the biggest G-ups I've ever seen on this game, and for Ryze, you have the lowest win rate out of any champion right now. You've got the Phase Rush nerf, you've got the Sarah's Embrace Shield, which is no longer in a game, you've also got the Seeker's Arm Guard nerf from earlier in the season, so for both of these champions, guys, a buff is definitely warranted, that's for sure. Now, we're going to stay with the worst champions, guys, and this next one is Hecarim, who has turned to absolute dog you-know-what after getting nerfed so much in the last few patches. After being one of the most successful and popular champions in the game, let alone junglers, it's like his legs have been cut off. Less movement speed, less Q damage, the turbo chem tag nerf, it's all added up. And there are also some interesting island buffs that you Hecarim mains might be interested in. Now, speaking of bad champions, well, what about Ezreal? Is he going to get buffed soon? Well, for you prodigal explorers out there, 11.11, Ezreal is getting buffed. Now, what it exactly is, I have no idea. Maybe they're changing his hair color, but this also seems justified. Ezreal at the moment, guys, is not one of the best ADCs, that's for sure. And one of the main reasons, if not the main reason for this, is that your mythic spike with Duskblade is not as strong as if you think about a Kai'Sa with Kraken Slayer or a Jinx with Kraken Slayer. It's not exactly the same thing. There's a different level of OP-ness there. Oh my goodness, I said that word again. Now, Duskblade isn't getting buffed this patch, so it might still be the go-to item, but there are 2 mythic items that potentially might be good depending on what the changes are, so pay attention for those. Now, staying in the bot lane, guys, there's a support getting buffed, and this is Seraphine. And a bit like Ezreal, guys, Seraphine compared to her other enchantresses isn't really performing that well with the new Moonstone and the new Shurelya. Yes, she's not the worst, but she could do a lot better. But compared to Lulu and Janna and Karma, who have lower cooldowns, for example, and can proc Shurelya's Battlesong's passive more often, my guess is right, reduce some of her cooldowns here. But at the end of the day, like, who knows what gold and plat players want. Now, let's head to the top lane, guys, and talk about 2 champions getting buffed here. And the first, if you guys love mushrooms, shout out to all of you from Holland, then you guys are going to be happier because Teemo is getting buffed. And the poison-spitting Yordle, guys, has had a good run of it in the last few patches as well. He got buffed at 11.7, Riftmaker kind of got buffed last patch, so top lane is as good as it's ever been. Now, sometimes it can get scary in the top lane when your opponent gets dry break and they get some sort of mobility because they can close that gap to you, so maybe Riot give you a bigger dart here, who knows. And the other top laner, guys, we have to talk about is Alawi, who is also getting buffed, and I don't think I've mentioned Alawi for seasons. In fact, I actually forgot she existed. So seeing an Alawi buff seems legit. She doesn't really have the best mythic spike in the top lane, Gorge Drinker isn't in the best day right now, and compared to other bruisers in the game, well, there are just better bruisers out there. Like, why play Alawi if you can play someone like Wukong, for example? And the last champion getting buffed, guys, on this list is the cigar himself, Graves. And whenever I see a Graves buff, he's been so popular the last few seasons in the jungle, I don't want to say that word cringe, but yeah, I kind of cringe. Now, he does have a 45-46% win rate, I get that. And maybe he can't fall clear as well as a Morgana or as a Rumble, who we have to talk about, by the way, but his item spikes are still good. His 1v1 is still good, of course, with Red Smite. But yeah, okay, maybe the Phase Rush nerf did hit Graves a bit too hard. Now, if your champion was on that buff list, go ahead and like the video, and if your champion wasn't, we'll keep on watching because they might be on the nerf list for next patch. And the first of 8 champions on Riot's hit list, guys, is Morgana, who is by far the most banned champion in the game right now. She is the preseason Samira. Her clear speed is the quickest in the game, her team fighting is ridiculous, her Black Shield is one of the most effective spells in the game, so I don't really think anyone can complain here. And the other jungler I mentioned, of course, earlier was Rumble, who is also getting nerfed. And just like Morgana, you have one of the quickest clear speeds in the game, and the recent buffs to your passive attack speed, which means you're auto-attacking more often with that extra magic damage, well, this means you can clear the camp so quickly when you're overheating. So let's hope, guys, with both of these changes for Morgana and Rumble, the Riot has specified will be for the jungle, that it is just for the jungle not for mid lane or top lane, or even support. Now we're going to stay in the jungle, guys, for the next 3 picks. That's right, 3 picks here. And the first of these 3 is my beloved Shaco, who's getting nerfed. No, but seriously, Shaco is in a pretty good state right now. And for me anyway, you know, I love playing AP Shaco. I'm guessing that Riot nerfed the AD side of him, because that is what most people play. It's a Hail of Blades with Gale Force, with Kraken Slayer, whatever you build, Eclipse, whatever it is. This playstyle is not only used a lot, but it's actually having pretty good success right now. But I'm hoping that Riot don't completely gut him. Now, the next jungler I want to talk about, guys, is Elise. And Elise is one of the few junglers in the game who doesn't actually full clear. I mean, you can full clear, but it's much more effective typically to go buff, gromp, right? Because all you care about is hitting level 3 and then making a play on the map and ganking. Well, this jungle meta, guys, isn't exactly about that. You know, as I said with Morgana and Rumble, it's about full clearing and getting scuttle crabs. But thankfully for Elise, your items are in a pretty good spot, like your Sorceress Shoe spike, your Night Harvester spike, your Zonya spike. You know, you're far from being the worst jungler in the game, so let's see if this change makes you the best. And the last jungler we have to talk about, guys. Now, Riot haven't specified what they want to do with Lee Sin here. You know, I was expecting them to nerf top lane Lee Sin specifically, but they haven't mentioned that. So this is just a general Lee Sin nerf. So whatever this is, I have no idea. We'll know tomorrow again. But the Blind Monk this patch, guys, with Gore Drinker is one of the best champions in the game. In fact, the most popular right now. This season as well, guys, both Lee Sin's Q and E cooldowns have been reduced as well. So Riot have given a bit of love to Lee Sin. So whether they revert one of these cooldown changes or do something else, who knows? Now, speaking of top lane Lee Sin, let's go to the top lane, guys, and talk about Urgot, who is getting nerfed. Now, Urgot was really the reason for Riot nerfing Titanic Hydra a few patches ago, if you guys remember. And the reason for this, guys, is because Urgot's W, his Purge, I've said this so many times, synergizes so well with Titanic Hydra's cleave passive because it gives you on hit. So every time you're shotgunning with those little crab legs of yours, you're throwing out some of Titanic's cleave passive as well, right? And even though Riot did actually hit your Purges on hit a few patches ago, Urgot still has one of the highest win rates in the top lane, in fact, in the game. Now, the last 2 champions on the nerf list, guys, here we go. This one is a mid laner, in fact, the only mid laner getting nerfed here, and this is Qiyana. And this is kind of an interesting one, because in high elo, Qiyana for sure is one of the strongest champions. But in lower elos, there are way more effective AD mid laners. So I don't know if someone from the Riot Balance team played against a Qiyana Smurf in gold or plat elo who just popped off, so I can see why this nerf is coming, but as I said, in lower elos, Qiyana really isn't the strongest AD champion in the mid lane. Statistically, that is. And the last champion getting buffed, guys, is Leona. And Leona getting buffed is also kind of a weird one because we're seeing her a lot at MSI at the moment. And in solo queue, she's still performing pretty well, but compared to maybe Lulu, compared to maybe Janna and Karma as well, yeah, maybe she isn't as strong as those, but she's still just as effective. Oh, and guys, I almost forgot there are 2 champion adjustments here, 2 champion adjustments, and these are coming to Master Yi and Senna. Now for Master Yi, I think we can all rejoice here because his Dustblade build, Riot want to get rid of this and put Yi back into the attack speed builds. And you Master Yi may shouldn't be too disappointed with this because attack speed isn't that bad at the moment, like Ginsu's got buffed last patch, so less gold. Kraken Slayer is a strong mythic spike, so hopefully Riot do you justice here. And as for Senna, well, that Frostfire build was just the most obnoxious thing in the game. You know, proccing Frostfire slow with your auto attacks in your queue, it's pretty much impossible to ever get onto you, and this gives your teammates, of course, the opportunity they need to engage and to chase. So enough with the champions getting changed, guys, like who cares about that? What about the items and runes in the game? Is Bramblevest finally going to be nerfed? Is Crit getting reverted? Well, it's 2021, so no. And we're going to smash through the Bruiser items first, and there are 3 of these getting buffed. So Trinity Force, Divine Sunder, and then Black Cleaver. Now, if you're a Sheen abuser, so if you're a Jax, if you're a Nasus, if you're a Camille, if you're a Wukong, if you can proc that Sheen damage really easily, guess what? Trinity Force and Divine Sunder are getting buffed. That sounds awesome. GP as well, maybe even Ezreal here, depending on what the change is. And then for Black Cleaver, well, this goes for pretty much any bruiser in the game, right? So Urgot, so Darius, anyone who really values movement speed because they lack that stickiness that other champions have. They can get kited pretty easily. Then if we go to the bot lane, guys, we have 3 items here affecting that bot lane meta. So we've got Wardstone, which is getting a quality of life buff, whatever that means. We have Staff of Flowing Water, which is improving, so Seraphine, shout out to you. And then Moonstone Renewer, the mythic, which is also getting buffed. And this makes sense because Shurelya's is by far the most popular mythic item for Enchanter supports. And then the last item getting buffed, guys, is Serpent's Fang, and specifically for ranged champions. So if you're a ranged champion who can make use of the lethality, well, if you're a Jace, if you're a Quinn potentially, if you're a Graves potentially, this sounds really good. And last but not least, guys, we have the rune nerfs coming in. The first is the Hail of Blades. So unfortunately, AD Shaco mains, I'm looking at you. I'm also looking at you Xin Zhao mains. But then you have weaker champions like Kalista who will be hit by this. And last up, guys, we have the Biscuit Delivery Rune, which gives you a biscuit every 2 minutes during the laning phase. And this will be hitting you mages out there, you tanks, and you spellcasters. casting supports. So those, once again guys, listen carefully, were the listed changes for 11.11. So don't go raging at me in the comments that I didn't infiltrate the balance team's vault to know exactly what these changes are going to be. This video again comes tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And until then, this has been the Jizz from GameLeap. Bye.